Captain Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the Harmony's Dawn, watching the blue planet grow larger on the main screen. His long, pale fingers touched the control panel as he studied the data flowing across multiple displays. The Valari captain had explored dozens of worlds in his career, but this one felt different. "Captain, we're receiving more transmissions from the planet," said Dr. Yunji, looking up from her workstation. The Xelian scientist's large dark eyes reflected the screen's glow. Her blue skin showed the slight color change that meant she was excited. The inhabitants call their world Earth and themselves humans. Hyunwoo nodded slowly. The Galactic Confederation had sent them here after detecting strange energy patterns from the system. Initial scans showed a planet full of life, with one species that had just started to reach into space. Standard protocol required careful study before making contact. "What do the transmissions tell us about them?" Hyunwoo asked. Dr. Yunji pulled up her analysis on the main screen. Images of humans appeared, bipedal creatures with various skin colors and hair types. They looked remarkably similar to several other species in the galaxy, just without the usual scales, fur, or unusual features. "They appear to be peaceful," she said, scrolling through more data. "Their entertainment broadcasts show stories about cooperation, friendship, and working together to solve problems. They have something called sports where they compete, but it seems to be just for fun. No real violence." The captain studied the images more carefully. Humans built impressive cities and had developed basic space technology. Their planet showed signs of careful resource management and environmental protection. Everything suggested a mature, peaceful civilization. "Have you found evidence of warfare?" Hyunwoo asked. This was always the most important question when studying a new species. "Some historical references, but nothing recent," Dr. Yunji replied. "It appears they moved past that phase of development several hundred years ago. Current transmissions focus on art, science, and cultural exchange between their different nations." Hyunwoo felt relieved. The galaxy had enough aggressive species. Finding another peaceful one would be welcome news for the Confederation Council. The Scarix threat on the outer rim had everyone nervous about adding new military problems. "Prepare the standard first contact package," he ordered. "We'll establish communication using the protocols for peaceful species. Dr. Yunji, I want a full psychological profile before we make direct contact." Over the next few days, the Harmony's Dawn moved into a stable orbit around Earth. The crew monitored human communications and learned their languages. The humans had noticed their ship. Something called NASA was tracking them and sending signals. Dr. Yunji spent hours analyzing human behavior patterns from their broadcasts. Everything confirmed her initial assessment. Humans showed remarkable creativity in their entertainment, deep emotional connections to family and community, and strong desires for knowledge and exploration. "They're ready for contact," she reported to Captain Hyunwoo. "I recommend we approach through their global governing body, something called the United Nations. They appear to handle diplomatic relations between different human groups." The first contact went exactly as planned. The humans responded to their communication attempt within hours. A calm, friendly voice speaking English welcomed them to Earth's solar system. "This is Ambassador Jin-ho of the United Nations," the voice said. "We are honored by your visit and eager to learn about your civilization." Hyunwoo smiled. Perfect diplomatic language, showing respect without fear. The ambassador's tone suggested someone educated and reasonable. "Greetings, Ambassador Jin-ho," Hyunwoo replied. "I am Captain Hyunwoo of the Galactic Confederation vessel Harmony's Dawn. We come in peace, hoping to welcome Earth into the greater galactic community." The conversation that followed impressed everyone on the bridge. Ambassador Jin-ho asked thoughtful questions about galactic civilization, trade, and cultural exchange. He showed particular interest in how different species maintained peace and resolved conflicts. "We would be most grateful for the opportunity to learn from more advanced civilizations," Jin-ho said. "Humanity has always dreamed of joining a greater community among the stars." Dr. Yunji monitored the ambassador's vital signs through their bioscanners. Everything showed genuine excitement and curiosity, with no signs of deception or hidden aggression. The readings perfectly matched her psychological profile of the species. "We would like to arrange a formal meeting," Hyunwoo said. "Perhaps some of your representatives could visit our ship, and we could send a delegation to your planet." "That would be wonderful," Jin-ho replied. "We have prepared a reception committee including our finest scientists, diplomats, and cultural experts. We also have Commander Young-mi from our space program who has been eager to meet you. Hyunwoo noticed that Commander Young-mi remained silent during most of the conversation, but this seemed normal for a military representative during diplomatic talks. Most species kept their military personnel in the background during first contact. Over the following weeks, the cultural exchange began smoothly. Human representatives visited the Harmony's dawn and showed appropriate wonder at alien technology. They asked intelligent questions about faster-than-light travel, energy systems, and galactic government. Dr. Subin, a human scientist, spent hours with Dr. Yoonji discussing different species and their homeworlds. She seemed fascinated by alien biology and how different environments shaped evolution. "Your galaxy sounds so peaceful," Subin said during one conversation. "How do different species avoid conflict over resources?" "Most species evolved past that need," Dr. Yoonji explained. "Once you develop advanced technology, scarcity becomes impossible. The galaxy has more resources than anyone could ever use. But what about territorial instincts? Surely some species still have those." Dr. Yoonji found the question odd but answered anyway. "Species that reach space travel typically lose such primitive drives. Cooperation becomes more valuable than competition." Subin nodded and took notes, but Yoonji noticed her heart rate increased slightly when discussing these topics. Probably just excitement about learning new concepts. The preliminary reports to the Confederation Council were entirely positive. Earth appeared ready for membership in galactic civilization. The humans showed all the right qualities: curiosity, peaceful intentions, and respect for other species. Captain Hyunwoo recommended beginning the formal integration process. Within 6 months, Earth could become the newest member of the Galactic Confederation, bringing their unique perspectives and considerable creativity to the community. Everything seemed perfect. The first contact protocols had worked exactly as designed, and humanity appeared to be exactly what the galaxy needed: another peaceful species to help balance against the more aggressive ones on the outer rim. Nobody on the Harmony's dawn suspected that they were being studied just as carefully as they were studying the humans, or that the questions about conflict and territory were not born from curiosity about peace, but from something far more dangerous. 3 months after first contact, the Harmony's dawn arrived at Kepler 442b carrying 20 human delegates. Captain Hyunwoo watched from the observation deck as the shuttle prepared to take the humans down to the surface. This would be humanity's first visit to an alien world. Dr. Subin led the human group, along with several other scientists, artists, and cultural experts. She had impressed everyone during the preparation period with her thoughtful questions and genuine excitement about meeting new species. "The Threnody are perfect hosts for this visit," Dr. Yoonji explained to the human delegates as they gathered in the shuttle bay. "They've never known warfare. Their entire civilization is built around harmony and cooperation." Jinwoo, the human historian, raised his hand. "How do they handle disagreements? Surely not everyone always agrees on everything." "They discuss issues until they reach consensus," Dr. Yoonji replied. "It's a slow process, but it ensures everyone feels heard and valued." "But what if someone refuses to accept the consensus?" Jinwoo pressed. "What if they just take what they want anyway?" Dr. Yoonji looked puzzled. "Why would anyone do that?" "Taking more than you need would hurt the community." "Which hurts you too?" Jinwoo nodded and wrote something in his notebook, but his expression suggested he found the concept difficult to understand. The shuttle landed in the Threnody capital, a beautiful city of crystal spires that grew from the ground like living trees. The buildings glowed with soft natural light, and gardens filled every space between structures. The air smelled like flowers and clean water. The Threnody themselves were tall, graceful beings with silvery skin and large, gentle eyes. They moved with fluid motions and spoke in musical voices. Their leader, Elder Lyra, welcomed the human delegation with obvious joy. "We are so honored to meet Earth's children," Elder Lyra said, her voice like wind chimes. "We have prepared many experiences to share our way of life with you." Dr. Subin stepped forward with a warm smile. "We're grateful for your hospitality. We hope to learn much from your peaceful civilization." The first day went wonderfully. The Threnody showed the humans their bioluminescent forests, where trees communicated through light patterns. They visited the city's center, where all decisions were made through group meditation and discussion. But Dr. Yoonji began noticing small things that worried her. When the Threnody explained their resource-sharing system, several humans asked detailed questions about storage, distribution methods, and what happened if supplies ran low. "We've never faced scarcity," Elder Lyra explained to Do-hyun, the human engineer. "Our planet provides everything we need and we take only what we require. But what's your backup plan?" Do-hyun asked. "What if something goes wrong? Disease, natural disaster, system failure?" Elder Lyra looked confused. "Why would we plan for such impossible things? Our systems have worked for thousands of years." Do-hyun exchanged a quick glance with Dr. Subin. "Of course. We're just curious about different approaches to planning." That evening, Dr. Yoonji monitored the humans' vital signs as they attended a Threnody cultural ceremony. The beautiful music and light displays should have been relaxing, but several humans showed elevated stress responses. The next day brought more concerning observations. Jinwoo asked Elder Lyra about their history, specifically about conflicts with other species. "We've never had conflicts," Elder Lyra said. "When we first met other species, we shared knowledge and resources. Everyone benefited, but surely someone must have wanted more than their share," Jinwoo insisted. "Some individual or group that tried to take advantage?" "I don't understand what you mean," Elder Lyra replied. "Taking advantage would mean harming others, which would harm ourselves. We are all connected," Jinwoo wrote furiously in his notebook. Dr. Yoonji noticed his heart rate had increased significantly during this conversation. The most troubling incident happened on the third day. The group visited a Threnody museum that displayed artifacts from their history, including some items from their brief contact with the Scarix centuries earlier. The Scarix had tried to invade Threnody space once, but the attempt failed when they couldn't understand how to fight beings who refused to fight back. The Threnody had simply withdrawn to their core worlds and waited until the Scarix lost interest and left. While Elder Lyra explained this history, Dr. Yoonji watched the humans carefully. Most listened politely, but Do-hyun studied the Scarix artifacts with intense focus. When he thought no one was looking, he took detailed photos of their weapon designs and armor configurations. "The Scarix gave up?" Dr. Subin asked. "They just left when you didn't fight back?" "Fighting would have required us to change who we are," Elder Lyra said. "We preferred to remain true to ourselves and trust that peace would prevail." "That's very admirable," Dr. Subin said, but Dr. Yoonji noticed something strange in her bio readings. The human stress indicators suggested excitement rather than admiration. Later that day, Dr. Yoonji found Do-hyun alone in the museum's technical archive, studying detailed specifications of Threnody infrastructure. When she asked what he was doing, he claimed to be researching sustainable building techniques for Earth. "Your cities are remarkably efficient," he said. "I'm trying to understand how you maintain them with so little apparent security or protection." "Protection from what?" Dr. Yoonji asked. "Oh, just general maintenance issues. Wear and tear, that sort of thing," Do-hyun replied quickly, but his bio reading suggested he was being deceptive. Dr. Yoonji made a mental note to review the security footage from the archive later. On the final day of the visit, the humans attended a Threnody council session, where the community made decisions about their next cultural project. The process involved hours of gentle discussion, with each voice heard and considered. Jinwoo watched the proceedings with fascination, taking notes on how decisions were reached and how consensus was built. But his questions afterward worried Dr. Yoonji. "What happens if someone really disagrees?" he asked. "I mean, really disagrees and won't change their mind? Then we continue discussing until we understand why they feel that way," Elder Lyra explained. "Usually, understanding leads to a new solution that works for everyone. But what if they're just wrong? What if their position would hurt the community?" Elder Lyra's musical laugh tinkled like bells. "How could someone want to hurt their own community? That would be like hurting themselves." Jinwoo nodded. But Dr. Yoonji could see from his expression that he found this concept almost impossible to believe. As the human delegation prepared to leave Kepler 442b, Dr. Subin thanked Elder Lyra warmly. "This has been incredibly educational. We've learned so much about peaceful coexistence. I hope our example helps Earth continue on its own peaceful path." Elder Lyra replied. "I'm sure it will," Dr. Subin said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. During the return journey to the Harmony's dawn, Dr. Yoonji reviewed her observations. The humans had been polite and friendly throughout the visit, but their questions suggested thought patterns that worried her. They seemed fixated on conflict, scarcity, and protection, concepts that were largely meaningless to advanced galactic civilizations. Most concerning were their physiological responses. When discussing peaceful topics, the humans showed signs of stress and confusion, but when conflict or competition came up, even hypothetically, they became alert and engaged. Dr. Yunji decided to include these observations in her report, but she wasn't sure what they meant. Perhaps humans were just naturally cautious due to their recent emergence as a spacefaring species. Many young civilizations took time to fully embrace galactic peaceful norms. She had no way of knowing that the humans' questions weren't born from confusion about peace, but from a careful analysis of potential weaknesses in galactic civilization. The cultural exchange was working perfectly, just not in the way she expected. 6 months into the cultural exchange, Ambassador Jin Ho appeared on the main screen of the Harmony's Dawn with an unusual request. Captain Hyunwoo studied the human diplomat's calm expression as he outlined humanity's proposal. We would like to establish a research station in the neutral zone between Confederation space and Scarix territory, Jin Ho said. Our outside perspective might provide valuable insights into long-term interspecies relations. Captain Hyunwoo considered the request carefully. The neutral zone had been empty for decades, serving as a buffer between the peaceful Confederation and the aggressive Scarix Empire. Having a research post there could indeed provide useful early warning of Scarix movements. This would be entirely a human operation? Hyunwoo asked. Yes, we prefer to maintain our objectivity by operating independently, Jin Ho replied. We would share all our findings with the Confederation, of course. Dr. Yunji spoke up from her position beside the captain. What kind of research are you planning to conduct? Behavioral observations, communication pattern analysis, cultural studies, Jin Ho explained. We want to understand how isolation affects different species over time. It sounded reasonable. The Confederation Council approved the proposal after brief discussion. They saw it as a useful way to keep watch on the Scarix while allowing humanity to contribute meaningfully to galactic security. Dr. Yunji volunteered to accompany the setup mission. She wanted to continue her own studies of human behavior, and the research station would provide an excellent opportunity for extended observation. The convoy of ships that arrived at the neutral zone surprised her. Along with the expected research vessel, the humans brought 3 large cargo ships and a heavy construction platform. When she asked Jin Ho about the extensive equipment, he explained that frontier research required substantial infrastructure. We need to be self-sufficient out here, he said. It's a long way from the nearest Confederation outpost. The construction proceeded rapidly. Within days, the humans had built a substantial facility with living quarters, laboratories, communication arrays, and what appeared to be industrial fabrication equipment. Dr. Yunji noted that the station's defensive shields were much stronger than necessary for a research post. Colonel Jae-sung commanded the station. He was older than most of the humans Dr. Yunji had met, with graying hair and serious eyes that seemed to constantly evaluate everything around him. When she asked about his background, he mentioned experience in logistics and security. Security for research operations must be very different on Earth, Dr. Yunji observed. We've learned to be prepared for anything, Colonel Jae-sung replied. The universe can be unpredictable. The research team included Dr. Subin, who had become familiar during the Threnody visit, along with Do-hyun and several other humans Dr. Yunji didn't recognize. They seemed unusually fit and alert for academic researchers. For the first few weeks, everything appeared normal. The humans conducted their stated research, sending regular reports to both Earth and the Confederation. Dr. Yunji worked alongside them, adding her own observations about interspecies dynamics, but she began noticing things that didn't fit. The humans had installed sensor networks that extended far beyond what research required. Do-hyun spent most of his time in the fabrication facility, working on projects that had nothing to do with behavioral studies. When she asked about these activities, Dr. Subin gave reasonable explanations. The sensor networks were for comprehensive data collection. Do-hyun was developing new research tools. Everything had a logical justification. Then the Scarix patrol arrived, Dr. Yunji was in the station's main laboratory when the alarms began. Through the windows, she could see 3 Scarix vessels approaching rapidly. The insectoid ships moved with the aggressive precision that had made them the galaxy's most feared military force. Dr. Yunji, please report to the shelter immediately. Colonel Jae-sung's voice came over the communication system. His tone was calm and professional, showing no sign of panic. But instead of heading to safety, Dr. Yunji made her way to the command center. She wanted to observe how humans reacted to their first encounter with hostile aliens. What she saw there changed everything. The command center was fully staffed with humans she had never seen before. They wore military uniforms and operated weapon systems that definitely hadn't been part of the research station's official equipment. Captain Taeho stood beside Colonel Jae-sung, studying tactical displays that showed the approaching Scarix ships. 3 attack cruisers, standard patrol formation, Captain Taeho reported. Estimated crew of 40 per ship. Analysis suggests they're conducting routine border reconnaissance, muttered another human. Probably investigating our sensor signals. Colonel Jae-sung nodded calmly. Standard response protocol. Let's discourage them from coming back. Dr. Yunji watched in growing horror as the humans prepared to engage the Scarix. The research station transformed before her eyes, revealing hidden weapon emplacements and defensive systems. This wasn't a research facility at all. It was a military base. Colonel, shouldn't we try to communicate with them first? She asked. Or call for Confederation assistance? Colonel Jae-sung looked at her with mild surprise, as if he had forgotten she was there. Dr. Yunji, this is a security matter. Please return to the shelter. But the Confederation protocols require... Dr. Yunji. Colonel Jae-sung's voice carried quiet authority that made her stop talking. We'll handle this. The battle that followed lasted less than 10 minutes. The humans didn't just defend themselves. They hunted the Scarix vessels with ruthless efficiency. Their weapons were unlike anything in the Confederation arsenal, designed specifically to penetrate Scarix armor and disrupt their communication systems. Dr. Yunji watched through the command center's viewports as the human weapons systematically disabled the Scarix ships. The insectoid vessels, which had terrified the galaxy for generations, were torn apart by precise coordinated fire. But what horrified her most wasn't the destruction, it was the humans' behavior. They showed no fear, no hesitation, no regret. They analyzed the enemy, identified weaknesses, and exploited them with cold precision. This wasn't desperate self-defense, it was predatory behavior. Target Alpha is disabled, Captain Taeho reported. Target Beta is attempting to flee. Target Gamma is requesting reinforcements. Negative on the reinforcements, Colonel Jae-sung replied. Clean sweep. We don't want survivors reporting our capabilities. Dr. Yunji realized with growing terror that the humans had planned this encounter. They hadn't stumbled into a fight. They had set a trap and waited for prey to arrive. Within minutes, all 3 Scarix vessels were destroyed. The command center erupted in quiet congratulations as the humans efficiently analyzed the battle data and began planning cleanup operations. Contact incident resolved. Colonel Jae-sung reported to Confederation Command. His tone was casual, as if he had just completed routine maintenance. No casualties on our side. We'll file a full report. Dr. Yunji stared at him in shock. Contact incident? You just destroyed 3 ships. They initiated hostile action against a Confederation research facility. Colonel Jae-sung replied calmly. We responded appropriately, but you were ready for them. You knew they were coming. Colonel Jae-sung met her eyes with an expression that made her understand how very dangerous he was. Dr. Yunji, we're always ready. That's how we've survived this long. The implications hit her like a physical blow. The humans hadn't been studying the Scarix to understand them. They had been studying them to fight them. Everything about the research station was designed to lure in a Scarix patrol and test human weapons against real targets. But if that was true, then what else had humanity been hiding? How much of their peaceful facade was real and how much was carefully crafted deception? As she watched the humans efficiently dispose of the wreckage and eliminate all evidence of the battle, Dr. Yunji realized that the galaxy had made a terrible mistake. They had welcomed humanity as peaceful explorers seeking knowledge and friendship. Instead, they had invited predators into their home. Dr. Yunji's emergency report reached the Confederation Council within hours of the Scarix incident. Captain Hyunwoo read her detailed account 3 times. before calling an emergency session aboard the Harmony's Dawn. Her words painted a picture that terrified him. Request: immediate deep analysis of all human cultural transmissions, he ordered his research team. Focus on historical patterns, conflict resolution methods, and social development. I want to know everything we missed. The analysis took 2 weeks and revealed the truth that shattered the Confederation's assumptions about humanity. Dr. Yunji presented her findings to a gathering of species representatives via quantum communication link. Humans have fought over 14,000 documented wars in their recorded history, she began, her voice shaking slightly. Their entire technological development has been driven by military necessity. Every major advancement, flight, computers, space travel, nuclear energy, was first developed for warfare. Representative Thara of the peaceful Minthari spoke first. Surely this is historical data. They've moved past such primitive behavior. Dr. Yunji pulled up recent Earth transmissions. These are from their entertainment broadcasts, which we initially interpreted as showing their peaceful nature. Look more carefully. The screen filled with images from human movies, television shows, and games. What the aliens had seen as stories about cooperation and friendship revealed themselves as narratives about conflict, violence, and survival. Even their children's entertainment was filled with battles between good and evil. Their sports aren't harmless competition, Dr. Yunji continued. They're ritualized combat. Their most popular games involve territory control, resource competition, and defeating opponents. They celebrate these activities. Captain Hyunwoo studied the data with growing alarm. What about their current society? Surely they've evolved past active warfare. They have active military forces on every continent, Dr. Yunji replied. Multiple nations maintain armies, navies, and air forces. They spend enormous resources on weapons research and development. Their peaceful global organizations exist primarily to manage ongoing conflicts. The revelation that humanity was actively military came as a shock to species that had eliminated warfare centuries ago. But Dr. Yunji had more disturbing news. Analysis of their genetic and cultural evolution shows they are persistence predators, she said. Their ancestors hunted by chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They evolved to be relentless, patient, and cooperative, but only to make them more effective killers. She displayed brain scans taken during the cultural exchanges. Notice their neurological responses to different stimuli. Peaceful scenarios cause stress and confusion. Competitive scenarios trigger excitement and focus. They are literally wired for conflict. Representative Kolar of the Nexari Council spoke up. But they seemed so friendly during first contact. Ambassador Jinho was polite and reasonable. Because they were studying us, Dr. Yunji said grimly. Every question they asked, every cultural exchange they requested was intelligence gathering. They weren't learning about our civilization to join it. They were learning our weaknesses. She pulled up recordings from the Threnody visit. Watch Jinwoo's questions again, knowing what we know now. He wasn't confused about peaceful conflict resolution. He was analyzing how to exploit species that won't fight back. The implications sent ripples of fear through the Confederation representatives. If humanity had been conducting intelligence operations since first contact, what else had they discovered? What other preparations had they made? Captain Hyunwoo requested immediate contact with Earth to demand explanations. Ambassador Jinho's response was politely evasive. I'm afraid there may be some misunderstanding about our defensive preparations, Jinho said when confronted with the evidence. Naturally, we take precautions when operating in unknown territory. The Scarix have quite a reputation. Your research station was a military base designed to ambush Scarix patrols, Captain Hyunwoo accused. It was a research facility with appropriate security measures, Jinho replied calmly. When attacked by hostile forces, we defended ourselves. I believe that's acceptable under Confederation law. The conversation continued for an hour, with Jinho deflecting every accusation with reasonable explanations that technically weren't lies but revealed nothing about humanity's true intentions. Dr. Yunji watched the exchange with growing understanding. This was exactly what humans excelled at, saying one thing while meaning another, revealing information while concealing their real purposes. They were natural deceivers because deception was a survival skill their species had perfected over millions of years. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Seo Jun addressed the United Nations Security. Council in a session that would have terrified the Confederation if they had been monitoring it. Phase 1 of Operation Starbridge is complete, he reported to the assembled representatives. We have successfully mapped Confederation military capabilities, territorial boundaries, resource locations, and defensive strategies. All major species have been analyzed for biological and psychological vulnerabilities. The Secretary General reviewed the intelligence reports with satisfaction. What about the Scarix threat? The Scarix provide perfect cover for Phase 2, General Seo-jun replied. Their aggression against Confederation worlds will create demand for our protective services. Once we've demonstrated our military superiority, the galaxy will have no choice but to accept our leadership. Are we ready for full-scale operations? General Seo-jun smiled grimly. Earth's industrial capacity has been converted to military production under cover of the Cultural Exchange Program. We have 50 battle fleets in concealed positions throughout the Outer Rim. Advanced weapons based on alien technology analysis are ready for deployment. He pulled up strategic displays showing human forces positioned throughout galactic space. The aliens think we're primitive newcomers learning about their peaceful civilization. They have no idea we've been preparing for this opportunity for our entire history. The revelation that humanity had been planning galactic conquest since before achieving spaceflight would have shocked the Confederation, but they remained unaware of Earth's true preparations, focused instead on trying to understand what they had already discovered. Back on the research station, Colonel Jae-sung received new orders from Earth Command. The time for subtle intelligence gathering was ending. Soon, humanity would reveal its true nature to the galaxy. He looked out at the stars and thought about the Confederation species he had met during the cultural exchanges. They were so trusting, so naive, so utterly unprepared for what was coming. They had spent centuries evolving past warfare, while humanity had spent the same time perfecting it. Dr. Subin approached with her final intelligence report. Analysis complete, Colonel. I have comprehensive data on the biological weaknesses of 17 major Confederation species, plus detailed assessments of their industrial capabilities and resource dependencies. Excellent work, Doctor, Colonel Jae-sung replied. Or should I say Colonel Subin? She smiled at the use of her real military rank. The role of peaceful scientist had served its purpose, but soon she would return to her true identity as commanding officer of Earth's newly created Xenological Warfare Division. The aliens never suspected, she said. They were so eager to believe we were just curious primitives seeking knowledge. That's their fundamental weakness, Colonel Jae-sung observed. They judge other species by their own standards. They can't imagine anyone being fundamentally different from themselves. As the two human officers reviewed their intelligence data, neither felt any guilt about the deception they had practiced. From humanity's perspective, they had done exactly what any sensible species should do when encountering potential threats or opportunities. They had gathered information, assessed capabilities, identified weaknesses, and prepared accordingly. The fact that other species hadn't done the same suggested they deserved whatever happened to them. The galaxy was about to learn why persistence predators had never gone extinct on Earth, and why evolution had produced a species that could cooperate just long enough to become the most dangerous hunters in the universe. The Scarix invasion began at dawn on 3 Confederation core worlds simultaneously. Captain Hyunwoo watched the emergency broadcasts from the Harmony's Dawn Bridge as billions of civilians faced extinction. The insectoid fleet moved with terrifying precision, overwhelming planetary defenses that hadn't been designed for real warfare. Kepler 442b is falling, Dr. Yoon-ji reported, her voice filled with horror. The Threnody are offering no resistance. They're just accepting death. Elder Lyra's final transmission showed the crystalline capital burning as Scarix warriors moved through the streets. The peaceful beings who had welcomed humanity with such joy were being systematically exterminated by creatures who saw mercy as weakness. Proxima Station has gone silent, another officer reported. Last transmission indicated complete system failure. Estimated casualties in the millions. Captain Hyunwoo gripped his command chair as the reports continued. The Confederation's pacifist military doctrine was crumbling within days. Their ships were designed for peacekeeping and exploration, not combat against the galaxy's most aggressive species. Send an emergency message to Earth, he ordered. Request immediate assistance under the mutual defense provisions. Ambassador Jinho's response came within an hour. His calm demeanor hadn't changed, but something in his eyes made Captain Hyunwoo's skin crawl. "We're naturally concerned about the Scarix aggression," Jinho said. "Humanity would be willing to provide military assistance in exchange for full Confederation membership and appropriate territorial considerations." "Territorial considerations?" Captain Hyunwoo repeated. "This is about saving billions of lives." "Of course," Jinho replied smoothly. "But any military operation requires significant resources and planning. We want to ensure our efforts are properly supported." Dr. Yoonji leaned forward. "What kind of support are you talking about?" Jinho's smile was perfectly diplomatic and completely cold. "We'll handle the Scarix problem. But the galaxy's going to look very different when we're done." The human response arrived within 72 hours. Admiral Insu's fleet emerged from hyperspace, with a force that made Captain Hyunwoo realize how completely humanity had deceived them. 50 massive battleships, each larger and more heavily armed than anything in the Confederation fleet. "This is Admiral Insu of the Earth Defense Force," came the transmission. "We're here to resolve the Scarix situation." The human ships moved with perfect coordination toward the battle zones. Their technology was clearly far advanced beyond what they had revealed during the cultural exchanges. These weren't the vessels of a primitive species just reaching for the stars. They were the weapons of a civilization that had been preparing for galactic warfare for decades. Dr. Yoonji monitored the human fleet's approach to Kepler 442b, where Scarix forces were completing their extermination of the Threnody. What she witnessed redefined her understanding of human nature. The humans didn't simply engage the Scarix, they hunted them. Admiral Insu's ships used psychological warfare tactics that drove the hive-minded insects into panic. Strange broadcasting frequencies disrupted Scarix communication networks, turning their coordination advantage into chaos. "Human fleet is deploying unknown weapon systems," Dr. Yoonji reported to Captain Hyunwoo. "Energy signatures unlike anything in our databases." On the main screen, they watched human ships launch projectiles that seemed to target Scarix biology specifically. The insectoid warriors, feared throughout the galaxy for their resistance to conventional weapons, collapsed as if their own bodies were betraying them. "How is this possible?" Captain Hyunwoo whispered. Dr. Yoonji realized the horrible truth. "They studied us during the cultural exchanges. Every species, every biological system, every weakness. They've been preparing weapons designed to kill specific alien types." The Battle of Kepler 442b lasted 6 hours. The Scarix force that had terrorized 3 star systems was systematically destroyed by human tactics that seemed to anticipate every possible response. Admiral Insu's ships moved like pack hunters, coordinating their attacks with terrifying efficiency. But what horrified Dr. Yoonji most wasn't the destruction, it was the humans' behavior. They showed no anger, no hatred, no emotion at all. They analyzed their enemies, identified optimal strategies, and executed them with surgical precision. This wasn't desperate defense or righteous anger. This was predatory behavior perfected over millions of years of evolution. "Scarix command vessel attempting to retreat," came the report from Admiral Insu's flagship. "Pursuit course laid in." Captain Hyunwoo found his voice. "Admiral, they're fleeing. The immediate threat is over." "Negative," Admiral Insu replied calmly. "We don't leave wounded predators alive to recover and attack again." The human ships pursued the fleeing Scarix across 2 star systems, hunting down every survivor with relentless patience. When the last insectoid vessel was destroyed, Admiral Insu's fleet regrouped and moved toward the next battle zone. The war ended in 6 months. The Scarix Empire, which had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, surrendered unconditionally to avoid complete extinction. Their final transmission was a plea for mercy from beings who had never shown any. "We yield to the Earth Hunters," the Scarix Queen's voice carried across galactic space. "We recognize human dominance. Please allow our species to survive." Admiral Insu's response became legend among the surviving Scarix. "You will survive if you remain useful. Test us again and we will finish what we started." But the galaxy's relief at the Scarix defeat quickly turned to new fear as they realized the implications of human victory. The monsters they had unleashed to save them weren't going home. 1 year later, Captain Hyunwoo received a message from Admiral Insu, now Supreme Commander of Galactic Defense Forces. The tone was polite, even friendly, but the meaning was unmistakable. The Confederation Council has requested increased human involvement in galactic security, Admiral Insu reported. We're establishing permanent defense stations in key systems to prevent future threats. What he didn't mention was that these defense stations were actually occupation bases, positioned to control major trade routes and resource systems. Humanity was consolidating its grip on galactic civilization with the same methodical patience they had used to defeat the Skariks. Dr. Yoon Ji, now working as a cultural advisor to the new human administration, watched Ambassador Jin Ho address the reformed Galactic Confederation. The ceremony was held on Earth, in a chamber designed to showcase human achievement and alien submission. Today marks a new era of galactic cooperation, Jin Ho announced to representatives from 100 species. Under human protection, all sentient beings can look forward to a peaceful and prosperous future. The applause was polite but hollow. Everyone understood that cooperation meant obedience and protection meant control. Jin Ho concluded his speech with words that echoed across 1,000 worlds. You reached across the stars looking for friends. Instead, you found us. We hope you'll learn to appreciate the difference. Dr. Yoonji reflected on her species' fatal miscalculation as she watched human ships patrol the space around every major alien world. They had judged humanity by their capacity for peace, never realizing that a species capable of such profound violence could also choose restraint. That choice, not inability, was what made humans truly terrifying. The galaxy had learned, too late, that Earth's greatest monsters were not the predators in its oceans or the viruses in its laboratories. They were the bipedal apes who had spent millions of years learning to cooperate just long enough to become the most efficient killers the universe had ever produced. Now those monsters ruled the stars, and their reign had only just begun.